Welcome to the Middleware Tech YouTube channel. In this series, you'll learn about C and P namespace. All code examples used in the videos will be available on GitHub. Let's get started.
Anything about namespace? So first we should know what is this namespace. We should have a very good idea, clear idea about what is this namespace. Then you can very well take about C and P namespace, and there should not have any confusion about this namespace concept, because you're going to use this namespace everywhere, from a Spring framework to Spring Boot applications. Everywhere you're going to use the concept of namespace. So before talking about anything about C namespace and P namespace, we should have the idea about what is namespace. What is the advantage of using namespace in XML, right? So we have to talk about that one first. Okay, so let me talk about first namespace, some points, then I'm coming with C namespace and P namespace. Now, when you create an XML file, like assume I am writing emp.xml, okay, and I'm going to write another one XML file, ept.xml. I'm just talking about some point about namespace, then I'm coming with C namespace and P namespace. If you know about namespace, fine. If you're not familiar, it will help get the idea. Here I have written two XML files. What is the purpose of using XML file? XML is used to store or to transfer some value from one location to another location. So if I'm going to write an XML, generally this is the basic structure. Employee, root element. Employee is a root element. Inside a root element, or assume this is an employees. So inside the employees root element, you will have employee child element. Inside the employee child element, I'm going to store emp ID. That's 1002 as ID, and I'm going to use employee name, and I'm going to close name like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to store some employee details here, right? Similarly, if I want to store some department details, so what I can do is that I can write department so by starting a root element, departments. So inside the root element, we have child element, department. Starting the element, you should close it. Inside the department element, right? ID one element. Here I'm going to write department ID, as in department ID is 22. And I'm going to write a department name, as in department name is admin. If you see this two XML file, what I have done, I'm going to store some employee details and department details. So in the first XML file, we are going to store employee details. And the second XML file, I'm going to store department details. Now, if you see this structure, from very human mind point of view, very easy to understand that yes, this is an employee ID, employee name. And from human mind, very easy to understand it is department ID and department name. If you see, both the element name is same. Both the element name is same. And from human mind, very easily can distinguish between employee ID and department ID, employee name and department name. But how a software will understand? How software will distinguish same name element? Right? So to distinguish same name element, we use namespace. So it is used to differentiate same name element. It is used to differentiate same name element. How it is? So there is a concept namespace we generally define with the attribute called XMLNS. This is an attribute that is used to define namespace. The XMLNS equal to, I am going to provide some value, some URL value if I am going to provide. This type of namespace is called URL type. Or XMLNS, if I am going to write like this XMLNS, if I am going to write XMLNS, 1 minute. What we're talking about here is that we're talking about this XMLNS have two different values. If you are going to put XMLNS and URL type, you can define XMLNS or URN type. URN type generally like this, or URN type. URN type generally it is like athos colon this. Like this, we generally talk about the URN type. So namespace is defined like this, URL type or URN type. It's a fixed string, it has no connection with anything else, it is a fixed string. Now, this type of namespace declaration is called default namespace. If you want to use the default namespace for a particular XML document like this, we write a default namespace for a particular document like this. You can write like this. Generally, namespace we declare to the root element of your XML file. But this use of default namespace is no use because it cannot distinguish same name element. To distinguish same name element, we need prefixed namespace. Default namespace and prefixed namespace. So to distinguish same name element, we use prefixed namespace. How we can define prefixed namespace? So let's see, I'm just going to define one prefix here, colon EMP. EMP is called prefix. So this prefix I can use for all the elements like this. If you see here, Control C, I'm going to use this prefix for all the element. Here, I'm going to use this prefix for all the element. Similarly, if you're starting the element, here you should close the element. Starting the element, close the element. Sorry, this should be emp colon id, emp colon name. Right. So if you see here, I have used prefixed namespace for this complete XML document. Same like that, I can use prefixed namespace for department also. Colon DPT is the prefix. Assume DPT is the prefix. So DPT is the prefix, so you can use this prefix for all the element. Control V colon. I have used DPT prefix. Right. Similarly, you can use DPT prefix here. Control V colon. Control V colon. Right. So what you find here, I have used the DPT prefix to point out all the elements. Now, if you see in this example, you can very well distinguish. In this example, you can very well distinguish same name element. See, I have differentiated same name element between these two XML documents. How? Using namespace. So one of the very important purpose of using namespace is to distinguish same name element in your XML file. Either those elements will be in the same XML file or the elements will be in a different XML file. This is the purpose of namespace. Fine. This is all about namespace. Now, what is P and C namespace in Spring Framework? That is our topic. The Spring Framework is saying that IOC container will do dependency injection. So dependency injection, how it can be done? Using constructor and using constructor or using setter. Dependency injection is done. Now we're talking about you are going to implement dependency injection using P and C namespace. How IOC? So one thing you can very well write that P and C namespace is used to implement dependency injection by IOC container. Very simply layman's language if I want to write, then I have to write that it is used to implement P and it is going to implement dependency injection by IOC container. See, still now the example that we have done to implement dependency injection. See all the labs that we have done. These are the labs that we have done in our curriculum, all the labs that we have done from yesterday. All the labs, these are the labs we have done in our curriculum. Let's open. In all the labs, we have used one grammar. For Spring.xml, we have used one grammar called DTD. Right? This is the grammar for an XML file. In all the labs, if you see any labs that we have done still now, we have used the grammar DTD. But remember, this use of DTD grammar is okay for, but it is not used for your production environment. In production environment, you always use grammar for your XML file as an XSD. Okay, so you have to use XSD as a grammar for the XML document, not DTD. For learning purpose is okay. Whatever you talked about from Yesterday for learning purposes, okay. But we always should use grammar for XML document as XSG, not DD. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it, right? So related to that, what you're talking about here is that, yes, we are talking about that IOC container to implement dependency injection using P or C namespace. So what does it mean by this? This only, right? When the customer has sent a request or client has sent a request, client has sent a request, fine. Request will come to whom? IOC container? IOC container? Request came, sorry. Request came to IOC container? Fine. So what IOC container is doing? IOC container is going to parse one XML string.xml, and this after that it will inject all the parameters from string.xml to a particular class called assume student.java. So I have one class here, student class student, right? So you're going to open curly brace and you're going to close one curly brace like this. Right? So assume in your student class you have some instance variable like string student ID string student name string student name. Okay, fine. We have two instance variables. Now what I'm saying that IOC container will inject these values inside a Pojo class and make it available to the client. This is how it is, right? You already know. Now here in this current scenario, how to write the code inside string.xml file? We always use bins as a root element. As you know, I don't have to say right. Control C. And you have to start bins element, and you have to close. Similarly, as you know, inside the bin element, we have to use bin element. Yes. We have to start the bin element, and then we have to close the bin element. Like this. And inside the bin element, I'm going to create you're going to create an object of the class like ID equal to stu assume class equal to assume student. This is how we have done it, right? Now what we are going to do, I'm going to provide, I want to implement C namespace and P namespace. This is already we know. Now the question is that where is C namespace and P namespace? C means container injection. P means procedure injection. So just see here. So what I want, if I'm just providing here some parameter, if you write here, just write here, if you write here, C colon STUID equal to what student ID should be there? Assume 12005. That is student ID. Then C colon student name equal to pick some name called student. What I'm going using C colon, I'm providing some value. Container will use this for as a constructor injection. Container will use it for constructor injection. Now the question is that what is the C? What is the C I used here? C is nothing but a namespace that is declared or provided under XMLNS namespace defined using C. A namespace will come in a standard name. You have to use a fixed name, that is HTTP colon double. I'll tell you what format it's coming. www.string framework. You should not write it. You should always copy it. I'll tell you from what to do. 1g/schema/c. This is the namespace. This is a standard namespace provided by Spring Framework. So if I want to, this is a C. This C I'm talking about. This C is a prefix here. XMLNS colon C. This prefix I'm using here to implement container injection, constructor injection. Right? So this C is pointing out to this namespace. Because we are talking about C and P namespace. So this is the namespace for C. And that is provided by the Spring Framework. And using this namespace container, IC container will implement constructor injection. Similarly, for P also have been, we have another one namespace for P. So if I'm going to use for P, is for consider injection. So there is another instance of P. So if I want to use for P, in that case I have to use here p.setID and p.string. Correct? So which one you are going to use based on using that prefix, you have to provide the corresponding value, and IOC container automatically inject these values for your instance variable and provide instance to the client. So what is the difference from the earlier implementation? In this implementation, we are using namespace. Container is using namespace to inject the values to your module. In this example, container is using namespace to inject the values to your module. Correct. So let's see how it is working. Okay. So what we'll do is that let's create a separate project. I'm not going to copy it. Right click, new, Java project, right here. The string IOC, C namespace or P namespace. So string IOC C string namespace. String IOC namespace 10. Move next and finish. This is our lab. Now already we know, right, in this we have to add all the jobs. Don't need all it, we're just adding it. Desktop, Spring Framework, job 5.0 talking about. Now here, apply. Now here, these two tasks, now what you have to do, already you know that we have to first create a Pojo class. So create one class. And as you just define the KP package. That class name is student. right? And then this is student. I have two instance variable, student ID and student name. So you take instance variable private string student ID private string student name. Right? Then right click source, giant direction setters. Okay, right click source, giant constructor using fields. I'm just putting everything inside a class. Right click source, giant constructor using field default constructor. Right click source, giant to string. So I've just kept everything inside the class. Fine. Right click source format. Class is ready. Student class. Okay. Now what I have to do, I have to create a configuration file. I have to create a configuration file. So how I can implement the configuration file? To implement configuration file, you have to get it. Let's get it here. File thing.xml. Always better. I recommended that put it inside the package sources. Sources finish and put it inside the sources. Right? Now what you have to do here is that I have to put the grammar. So go to your documentation in bins here. Last time I used GTD, right? Now we are not going to do GTD, we are going to use SSD. Just copy this. This commands name. Try better not to call write it manually. So to do this, Control C. So here I have to use bins, root element, close. Under bins, you have to provide this attribute XMLNS. Just under bins, you have use XMLNS equal to this. Then XMLNS XSD, or you can use prefix only, right? So this you can use as XML allocation. Now I have to define p namespace and c namespace. Here only I have just written p namespace and c namespace that I have to define. So you can use XMLNS :p as p namespace, Control C. Somewhere you may find it ready-made, but I'm just saying step by step. And there is another namespace for C. You can just put here C. Right. Next, you have to put another attribute schema location. how to provide schema location, XSI, since I used XSI colon, schema location, okay, equal to, you have to provide the namespace. So what is the namespace for bins? This is the namespace for bins. Control C. Control V. And what is the namespace for the location where it is defined? Is bins. You can see from here only, you know, what it is bins. This is defining each package bins. So for this, the location will come like this. Control V. Just right here, spring bins of existing. Spring bins of existing. For each schema, we have namespace and namespace definition. Both is there, and we need to define the location of both of them. It's not given area. Right click, so format. So things are fine. We have used the bins element, and we're closing the bins element. Here we have used XMLS, HTTP schema slash bins, XMLS from XSI, we have used schema instance, then XMLS :p, we have used P namespace, then we have used C for C, and then okay, here slide mistake. Exercise run schema location for bins schema and this location. That's it, fine. So in case of P namespace or C namespace, you have to provide this for P namespace and C namespace. If you want to use, you have to use this P namespace. And as I told you that we're talking about IOC container. That's why for IOC container we are using these bins. Correct. Right. Right. Okay. Now here. Now what I have to do? I have to use this. Now I want IOC container to inject the bin inside the Pojo. Create the bins as well as inject the attribute value inside the bin using Pojo, using dependency injection, C namespace. So for this, what I have to do? Just use this. I want to see namespace, right? Control C. You can find lots of things. So I'll already told you, just you have to execute the labs. If you're not executing labs, it will not work. We have to do all the labs you have to execute, because these topics are lab oriented. So if you see here, we have used in object stu, class name is student defines a package called PP, and the first instance variable is student ID. See here, stud or stud ID, stu name. Okay, there's two different spelling, stud ID, stu name. So stud ID and stu name. We have these two attributes. We have these two attributes, right? Okay. Now, it should work. I have used here. Let's try to use first p namespace. C namespace, C colon student ID and C colon student name. The student object is stu. Fine. So now we get the student object. Right click new class. Let me get the main class. Class name is client. Okay, this is my main class. And inside the main class, we have to create an object of application context. Application context AC equal to new class path XML application context. Here you will take the parameter like resources as string.xml. You have to import this classes application context here as well as class of this application context here. Save it. Right? Now, if I'm going to get an object, let me check whether this is done by the container or not. I'm going to use sc get bin. sc.getBin is going to take an object called stu and it's stored in a student object. Student st equal to this. Save it. And you may have to typecast. Yes, you have to typecast here. Save this. Now, what I want to do, I want to print this student object. And ln just print this student object. So this is my st. Now if I'm going to execute this code, yes, what I find is that IOC container have used constructor to implement constructor injection. Do one thing from your class, student class, remove this constructor. Just disable this constructor. Let's see here. Source toggle command. I have disabled the constructor. Okay, I have disabled the constructor. Default constructor you want to disable, okay, disable that one also. Source toggle command. So there is no constructor in the student class. Let me try it once again. Client, right click, clear, right click, run as Java application. So what it is saying is that error getting bins could not resolve matching constructor to avoid anxiety. So when you remove the constructor from your class, you can see that C namespace is not working. That's why implementing C namespace is going to use constructor in your class. So you have to just enable the constructor. Now it should work. Right click, run as application. Yes, it's working fine. Right? So this is the purpose that we're talking about, that IC container is using constructor if we have C namespace. Same like that if I want to implement P namespace. So do one thing, just copy this code. Source, just copy this code. and source toggle command and implement here only p namespace. Control V. Now this time I'm going to use p namespace, so you can use your p for the student ID and p for the student name. So as I told you that p namespace is used by those setters. Let me check it is working or not. That's it. I click on a Java application. P namespace is working. Now go to your student.java file and remove all the setters for student ID and student name. Just disable them. Source toggle command. And let me execute once again. Right click, run as Java application. If you execute once again, you'll find that it's given an error. Why? Because it is not getting the corresponding property, student name, setter. So that's why, when I'm going to implement p namespace, if you remember that it is using setter in your class. And if I'm going to IC container is using setter in your class. And in C namespace, IC container is using getters in your class. Sorry, a constructor in your class. Right? So that is the thing that we're talking about, is that C namespace and P namespace. We should be familiar with this because we're not going to use DTD in the actual production environment. We should always go for namespace implementation, because there are lots of advantages there. I'll come on to all those things. You'll find step by step how dependency injection is implemented one by one. So this is the very basic example how we can introduce namespace concept using C and P namespace, and how we can inject or can implement dependency injection using C and P namespace. A very good example. Correct. So I suggest to do this in your system. Though at the end of our course, I'll share all the codes that we have done in our curriculum. I've said all the code via Git repository. Right? So fine, guys. Anything else you want to add, anyone?